What's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a video talking about high school. Okay, so since it is basically back to school week, or what I think of as back to school week after the summer ends for all the youngins, and well, you don't have to be young to go to college or university, but it's back to school season for everybody. So I did a video last week talking about whether or not college is worth it. Obviously, with the costs involved. I thought it was a good topic for discussion. For anyone who's interested in that, please feel free to check it out if you missed it. In this video in particular, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on high school, my experience in high school, and any tips I would have for youngins who are just getting started with high school. Because I do have a lot of younger viewers that are either going through high school or, are just starting or this kind of thing. And, just give my kind of 2 cents on it. Here in Canada, we go to high school for 4 years. And some people have to stay for a fifth before they can go on to college or university or whatever they're going to do afterwards. So I felt like this was a good topic. I like doing these real world topics sometimes, and because it is a huge part of everyone's lives when they go to high school, when they get through high school, and then when they finally, eventually, hopefully, finish high school. Not everyone does, but hopefully. So, and in the Q&A I did a couple weeks ago, I've seen this reoccurring question, which people asked me about before, about 7 or 8 months ago during the wintertime when I did my first Q&A, is what was my experience like in high school? And I touched on it very quickly, but I wanted to kind of, do a whole video talking about it, because it's a huge time. Those 4 or 5 years that people spend in high school really do get them set up for the rest of their lives in terms of what they're going to do, for a job, for income, the type of person they're going to be, where they're going to go. And those decisions that are made at that point are like one of the most critical periods, I think, in anyone's lives as they go through, in terms of their success, in terms of, the quality of human being and how they're going to benefit society. Those years are some of the most important. The only time I think is more important than in high school in terms of success and society and who they become, people, is actually right after high school, which I think is way more important than what does occur in high school, is what people do right after, within the next couple years, within those crucial 2, 3, 4, 5 years once they finish high school, getting started with a career, going to college or university or an apprenticeship or whatever the case may be. Those are even more important, I think, than what does occur in high school. But for me personally, my thoughts on high school, now that I've been done it for 9 years, and went to both college and university for 3 years each, have been working full-time for about 6 years straight through, and then doing YouTube on top of full-time work for about 2.5 to 3 years if you count the whole thing. So that's basically where I've been at in terms of my standing right now. So it's still not out of my memory to be able to think back to my experience at that young teenage age of those 4 years that I did go to high school before I went to college and then university afterwards and started working full-time. So when most people reflect on high school and they think about it, they usually think about friends, they usually think about socializing and all of those things that happen for the first time. A lot of change, a lot of first times. And I think that's one of the most magical things about that time period, is that you're really, at that age, you're experiencing the world for the first time. You're getting used to socializing and meeting people and becoming friends, even though you may do that a little bit in elementary school. But in high school, you get into the whole popularity scene, which is like a higher level of the socialization as a result of, I think personally, a lot of people not being challenged enough when they're there and spending probably more time socializing than they probably should, rather than, focusing on what the hell they're going to do once they finish, and get ready to have to actually make a living and take care of themselves and everything. And that's a good point right there, is that a lot of people think about high school as the socialization period, and it is. those skills are extremely important for people to learn to be sociable because, in order for them to meet friends and eventually if they're going to, have a spouse or whatever the case may be, those skills obviously come into play with regards to that. At a lot of jobs, socializing is very important, being able to speak to people and, do all these kinds of things. There aren't a lot of jobs where you're going to get hired where you're not going to have to present and speak to people. Communication and on every interview you go to, every customer or client or whatever the case may be, there's very few jobs where you don't have to really be vocal and communicate and be social. So those skills are absolutely crucial. I just don't think they take 4 to 5 years to really master. It's pretty simple. Think about what you say before you say it. Be kind to others and respectful, and ask them a lot of questions. That's pretty much the easiest way to get people to like you, is get them to talk about themselves. Ask them open-ended questions, ask them questions about themselves, and there you go. Boom, there's socialization in about, 20 seconds? That's all you really need to know. That's all there is to it. Now, obviously, there is, more to it than that. But again, people take that part of it to another level. I personally believe. And so many people get wrapped up in the whole popularity and the whole thing that they forget about, hey, wait, why am I here? What's the purpose of me being here in the first place? Obviously, the purpose is basically two things socialization, we'll say 3. So learning to socialize, becoming good at socializing. But then the other 2 keys, of course, are learning those necessary skills, those basic bare bones skills that people are going to need to get through the rest of their lives. So at least get a solid foundation so that they can do the things they're going to need to do to take care of themselves and survive, and as well learn about themselves and kind of come to conclusions about what they do want to do with the rest of their lives. That way, if they can figure that out when they're finished, they can get on a course, they can draw up a roadmap and either go to a college or university or go and get a position with a company they want to move up with, or become an apprentice of some kind of trade or something of the sort, or join the military, or whatever they're going to do. So those, for me, really are the 3 keys of high school: learning to socialize, finding out what you want to do with the rest of your life, and learning those all-around skills that we all really should have in order to get through this thing we call life. So, but people forget about it. They get wrapped up in the socialization too much a lot of times, and they get absorbed with it. It's 4 years, 5 years, but some people, they forget that one day high school is going to end. When you're a kid, you're a teenager, and you get into high school, you forget that. In 4 or 5 years, this is all going to be over, and everyone's going to go their separate ways. What so-and-so thinks about me or him or her or whatever, or who's in the in crowd and who's not, or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. But when you're in it, it's like the most important thing in the world to you. Your friends and all these relationships and the whole hierarchy of popularity and all of these things as a result of learning to socialize and being part of that. It doesn't matter. None of it matters when it ends, because what happens eventually is, you'll probably, as you finish high school, have a couple friends that will be, in touch with you, at least for the first few years. But then as the years go on, like I said, me, 9 years after I finished, and you go through college and university and a full-time job, and you meet new people and all these kinds of things, people move away for their careers. Some of them go to different colleges and different locations, and people just spread out. You basically lose touch with most of those people anyway. I mean, there's most people, I would probably say 10 years after high school is finished, probably only has a couple friends that they still communicate with on a daily or weekly basis that they went to high school with. There's very few people that can say, oh, I'm best friends with this person and have been since I was in high school or grade school. It just, in reality, with having to move in the economy to find jobs and things of that nature, things happening, people meeting new people and moving on and growing and changing and becoming an adult, I can say honestly, most people after high school, these friendships and all these things that are gained, they only matter in terms of your learning and of yourself. But for the most part, afterwards, most people just go their separate ways. It all just falls apart. And that brings me back to that whole concept, which is that all that hierarchy and everything of popularity and in crowd and out crowd, and then you got your druggies who are cool, and you got your athletes, your people that play, I don't know, football or basketball or hockey, whatever the case may be. But then only like maybe a couple of them later on will be able to use that to even do anything, get a scholarship or whatever. The majority of them, that do that and get really into sports and stuff, it's good for their health to exercise and all these kinds of things, and hopefully they learn some things from it, and they can become more bodily kinesthetically intelligent as a result of playing these types of sports. But most of it is, for most people, unfortunately, is useless because it doesn't really amount to anything aside from them meeting a few different people, unless they can become really good at whatever they're doing, have a lot of talent, and work hard, and are able to go to a college, university, and become, pro or semi-pro or something like that, and make some money actually doing it. But it's funny how when you're in high school, all these different concepts, like I've been touching on here and there. I know I've been going quick because there's a lot to talk about, and I'll try to keep the time down. It just, when you're in it, it seems like all these things are so important. And then once it finishes, it's like, in retrospect, it's like, yeah, that really shouldn't have mattered to me. That shouldn't have mattered. What this person thought, or what that person, or whatever the case may be, all of that social circle and everything, it basically breaks apart after high school. And then you probably are only going to see, a few people. Everyone's different, in terms of how much they want to socialize, and life situations are different, but afterwards, most people, I would think, only really talk to a couple people from their high school, depending. I mean, everyone's different, but most people, I think, would. So, that's kind of a funny thing about it, that people really, kids, teenagers, when they're in it, they totally miss the point, which is, really learning what they're good at, and deciding what they want to do with their careers, really, aside from just learning those basic socialization skills. And the other thing that's really funny is that, too, the whole popularity. Okay, well, first of all, popularity is not really real. I mean, because here's the way I think of it anyway, is because when it comes to being social, or being, a social person, right, you think of somebody who's like a social butterfly as being more popular generally. But a lot of people that are, part of the in crowd or whatever, are jerks to others that are not. So that's like antisocial behavior. So it's kind of like they're thought of to be very social, but then they're antisocial in other ways, and they look down upon others who are different. So I don't know. Basically, the whole thing is it's all BS. It's all basically created by the media and advertising to sell things, to sell either brands or clothes. Your name brands, your Nike, if you don't have this type of shirt, if you're not wearing that type of shirt or this type of pants or whatever, and it doesn't cost you $100, then you're not part of the in crowd. If you're not getting stoned or getting high or drinking or whatever, you're not part of that crowd, and this kind of thing. When really nobody at that age should be doing any of that stuff anyway, and it's really bad for their development. So my advice to anyone who's in high school is, don't worry about any of the popularity thing. Just focus on what you're there for, which is to, find a way to make money, or find something that you want to study in the future, or do, maybe an apprenticeship, whatever, a trade, so that you can make some money in the future, and don't worry too much about, friendships are good, but, try to stay out of the whole, that thing, because after high school is finished, it's all pointless anyway. It's all useless, basically. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, my thoughts on it. It's just, there's a lot of wasted time. I think there's a lot of time that could be better spent, in high school. Because a lot of it, with regards to socializing in the social circles and everything like that, those concepts, or that way of grouping, usually later on in life doesn't occur. I mean, in some places where you would work, some offices or whatever the case may be, everyone has to get along together. You can't have people that hate each other, or people that, look down on each other, or things like that. That type of grouping, it only really is real when you're in high school. Once you finish it, it's like it doesn't apply anywhere else, except for maybe in college, where you'll have some people that don't want to give that up so easily. They want to cling on to that after it's already done, right, and everything. So anyway, those are my thoughts on those parts of it. In terms of my high school experience, and looking back on my own personally, I won't go too much in detail because the video is getting kind of long, but for me, it was very good. I enjoyed it a lot. I remember I had more free time, in high school than I did afterwards, and later on when you're forced to get a job to make money, and you're also going to school and you're doing all these things. I had a lot more free time in high school where I could literally take like, I don't know, maybe 30 hours a week, and the weekends and everything else while I'm awake, where I had like unallocated time, where I wasn't working or I wasn't, studying or doing it. I can just do whatever I want. So a lot more free time, hanging out with friends, doing stuff like that. Which I can say too, in terms of hanging out with friends, most people that are really working hard to try to be successful, they don't have as much time after. In college, you may have some kind of time too, where you'll be going out and partying, drinking, and doing these types of things, which a lot of people do. Not everyone does, but a lot of people do. But even still, like in comparison, when I think about it, if the person isn't rich and they have to get a job, like their parents aren't loaded, then they're going to be working, a good number of hours a week to pay for their schooling and everything like that. They're not going to really have that much free time. So that's one thing about it that I thought was really cool, was the amount of time that you could play video games or watch TV or play sports or, just hang out or do whatever you want with friends, which is a really cool time, because I don't think later on in life most people ever have that kind of time again, especially if they have kids at an early age or whatever the case may be. There's just, in high school, it seems teenagers have a lot more free time on their hands. And maybe that's part of where that popularity and hierarchy of socialization comes from, is the fact that they have so much more time than people do at a later age, when they're forced to always be working and doing things like that. Otherwise, they'll basically end up broke, which is the unfortunate truth of what does happen. So that's definitely one thing I miss. The friends, the bonds, the friendship that you'll have with people. I can say it's probably greater in high school than later on, unless the person, again, like I said, is not really trying to be successful and working really, really hard. Because if you're doing that, you're not going to have that kind of time to spend with friends and do things like that. Everyone's always going to be busy or doing things, and you can hang out for probably a couple hours a week or something like that. But aside from that, you're going to have to get right back to work or studying or whatever they're doing. The free time just isn't there. So friendship and free time, and let's see, what else do I miss from high school? I mean, it's pretty easy, to be honest with you, compared to like when you get into your higher level, university or college courses and stuff, and you really have to know your stuff, and you're paying to go. That's another thing. It's free too. That's a good thing too. Unless you go to like a private school or something, it's free supposed to be. At least it is in Canada for the most part. Yeah, so and it's easy. It's a lot easier than college or university, especially like me. I took computer science. So, having a bachelor's degree in science was, probably the hardest thing I'll ever do in my life, harder than just working at a job or anything of the sort, unless, depending on what kind of job you have. But, the stuff you learn in high school, even though you're a teenager and it might seem, complicated to you, because you're growing too, your brain is maturing and everything of the sort, not fully grown yet or anything of the sort like that. But, it is a lot easier than your higher level stuff when you finish and you have to be working more hours, working harder, studying more, studying harder, learning more complicated things, just taking it to the next level and the next level. So it's easy that it's, that really basic level of everything that you're getting used to. So that's another thing. In terms of the negative things of it, like I said, popularity can be cruel for people. If people don't have friends, or they don't make friends, or they have trouble with that, then that can be something really negative. Some people get really depressed in high school, more so than I think elementary school or college, with that whole social hierarchy that is created at most high schools. Me personally, in my experience, no, it was great. I had a lot of friends in high school. It was really good. I was always hanging out with my friends and doing stuff like that aside from studying. I didn't have a job yet. I delivered newspapers, though, so that was kind of like a job, like an hour a day type thing, 6 hours a week. So even then, I guess I kind of was doing more than most people would. Now I do a lot more with all the hours and stuff, but than most people do anyway. But yeah, so there's that. And basically, to answer the other part of the Q&A, how was my experience with high school? I loved it for the most part. I mean, it was, compared to how challenging university is in a science program, or depending on what you take, most things are a lot more challenging at the university level. Not having to work that much, all of those types of things, and spending a lot of time with friends, being able to play video games, and your parents take care of you, right? You're not on your own, so your parents pay for everything, or they should. You can just chill and they take care of everything. Now, like, for example, with me, I got my own house, so I have to take care of everything. If something happens, I got to pay for it. It's a lot more responsibility, and definitely when you're younger like that and at that age, you don't have that level of responsibility, and that's kind of, in hindsight, kind of like, yeah, I had it easy, like I didn't have to, be responsible for these things. So that's cool. In terms of the hierarchy, like I keep talking about with the popularity and stuff like that, some people think, because I collect action figures, that I was picked on in high school or something like that, or my high school experience was terrible because, whatever, I took computer science, nerd, whatever, geek. Well, I am, but that's true. But I'm also very athletic, and that's something that a lot of people that see me on a webcam don't really know that I am. I took gym all 4 years. When I was younger, I played every sport. I went to basketball camps. I played hockey for like all throughout my childhood. I think 8 or 9 years I played ice hockey for. In Canada, you play ice hockey. In the States, you play football. I played soccer a little bit. I played a lot of different sports. So when it came to high school, I was very athletic. I got a weight set at an early age, so I lifted weights all the way through. So I was usually stronger than most of the other kids my age. I remember in grade 10, I measured my arms. They were like 14 inches. In grade 10, which is pretty damn good. Granted, I was kind of fat a little bit because I was eating too much, but, I didn't get picked on or anything like that. Nobody bullied me or anything of the sort like that. People see action figures and they think, oh man, he got bullied so bad, it must have been a nightmare for him, right? But as you can tell too, I am very social. If I wasn't a natural born presenter, I wouldn't have been able to build this kind of YouTube channel with over 1,000 videos when you combine my channels, over almost 30 million views now, getting close, and over 36,000 subscribers. So if I wasn't a very social person, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do something like that. So I'm not, some people, they judge a book by its cover, based on what I do. But this is something that's a hobby for me. It's an interest. I love it. But, it doesn't mean I'm this real geeky guy that got picked on or got pushed around or stuff like this. People, sometimes they get an image, like a mental image of who you are just by seeing stuff like that, and they judge. You're free to judge as you will, but I'm just saying too, though, that I am very athletic as well too. I'm not the type of person that's going to do bad in gym class. I got A's in gym class. I was one of the best guys in gym at any sport. In basketball, we had a basketball tournament with over 50 students, and I placed third, and I'm not even 6 foot. So because of basketball camp and all that stuff, I'm really good at it, and. So people judge, but no, it wasn't bad at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't want people to, start thinking that, I don't know. When it comes to high school, people are sensitive. For me, I'm not. I feel willing. I'm willing to openly do a video discussing it, talking about it for about 25 minutes now. So it went on longer than I hoped it would have. But it is a huge topic. It's a huge time in everyone's lives. But unfortunately, most people, sad to say, I think they missed the 2 out of the 3 things I talked about earlier. The 2 out of the 3 purposes for going in the first place. People usually forget about those 2. And then what ends up happening is when they finish, they're kind of screwed because they really don't know what they want to do when they were supposed to figure that out, earlier. You should have already known, because that's what they always tell you, isn't it? When you're in high school, you take career studies and different stuff like that. What are you going to do once you're done? Teachers would always ask you that. If you're paying attention, you got to think, yeah, that's like one of the reasons why I'm here, is to figure out, in all these courses I'm taking, these different things, what do I like, what am I good at, and what am I going to work on afterwards? So a lot of people miss the point of high school. Not that socializing is not important. It is very important. But I would say more important, deciding what you want to do so you can, after it's done, go. Go for whatever it is. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Kind of an in-depth video. It is the first week of school for everybody, so thought it'd be a good one to put up. If you guys want to hear my thoughts on the college one, watch that. And yeah, I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Trev, and I'm saying peace.